I think a great example for this is influencers. That you might see them on TikTok, blah, 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 doing their whole thing. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, they drop a podcast. It's like, they ranked, they have all these listeners. And you're like, how? Like they're like, I tune in and I'm like, they're just talking about, whatever. But the thing is they already had an asset and they could push that podcast through, to all of those people, to all that audience, and they could get a quick feedback. And again, for smaller businesses, they might lack those resources. So the approach should be a little bit different, right? So I think focusing on that speed of conversation.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Now, I do want to clarify, like, I'm not saying small businesses shouldn't start a podcast. Exactly. I think it's more about like, how much are you prioritizing it?
Yep.
And how, like, what level of resources are you putting into it? Mm-hmm. I think that's the conversation. And that's just kind of the evolution of like the journey that we've gone on. I think that a podcast, again, kind of from top of funnel to middle of funnel, I used to think it was top of funnel. I've seen podcasting work best kind of when it's like internally we talk about when the podcast is like fuel, not the spark.
Yeah.
So like if you don't have a spark in a fire, then fuel doesn't matter. Like you can pour as much gasoline into a fire pit as you want. But like if you don't have a match, then it's not going to work. And so I think a lot of people, when they start podcasts, particularly in the business, they're still figuring out what their spark is. Like they're still trying to like light their campfire, but they're just pouring fuel on. They're like, oh, this is a marketing problem. If I pour more marketing on this business, then it will work. When like the business isn't like on fire yet. No, it's kind of cheesy, but I think it's good kind of like illustration. So for us, it's like once you have like this fire burning and you have people around that fire that are getting warm from it and they're getting value from their business, then that's, I think, when a podcast can come in and it can add fuel to that, where then it like begins to expand that. And it begins to, that's where it's like middle of funnel, where we see, yes, you will bring in new customers from a podcast, but primarily it's most valuable when your current customers, the people that know about you but haven't hired you, when it's a way for those people to like stay in touch with you a couple times a week. Yeah. That's where like I see kind of middle of funnel where it can be really valuable.
Yeah.